Hello and welcome back to this video. So today we are going to taking a look at two tools. One is Openrewrite and one is Renovate that help you to upgrade your dependencies and that not CVEs are piling up. Openrewrite is basically one shot for upgrading one time to a major version, while Renovate can take care of upgrading minor versions for all of your microservices. But without further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing we are taking a look at is Openrewrite. So if you took a look at my last video, I showed you how to manually upgrade to the latest Spring Boot version 4.0. But maybe if you consider that you have a lot of microservices, updating it manually is something you would not do. And also never do yourself what you can automate. And Openrewrite is exactly for doing this, upgrading major versions. So how is this done? So you have two options. If you're on Maven, you're using a Maven plugin. If you're on Gradle, use a Gradle plugin. So we are using the latest Gradle plugin here, which is rewrite in version 7.12. And then you also need a small configuration. You need to activate a so-called recipe. In our case, it's one for Spring Boot 4.0 and one for Spring Batch 6. Usually, the recipes are provided by the framework itself, but there is currently for Spring Boot 4.0, there is currently no recipe. So we will use our own recipe. If we have the recipe in place, the only thing we need to do is to call the Gradle task rewrite run. And then it will basically do that. It will compile the application, do all the necessary steps that is usually done with Gradle. And the last step will be basically executing the rewrite. So now we are at the rewrite run. It's analyzing the project. It's taking a look. It's executing then. And afterwards, we are already finished. So if I take a look here at my Git, we see all the changes that have been processed, which are similar in the video I showed you last time. Which means now if we go to application class and if we launch that, it will compile. And then finally, we should be seeing that we are now on Spring Boot 4.0 from Spring Boot 3. So just to take a look, our previous commit was on Spring Boot 3.5. So how is this actually working? So let's take a look at the recipe. So the recipe is just a big YAML file, which has a type here at the button, and then you can configure different things. So one of the important things is, of course, we upgrade our main Spring dependency. Then there is a lot of auto configuration changes. For that, we need to add new dependencies. We can also change types. So as I showed you, a lot of the imports change for the auto configuration. That's that. We can fiddle with annotations. We can remove dependencies. So this dependency was not compatible. We also need to take care of some of the Kotlin things I showed you. And for that, if you have no other option, you can just use the find and replace. And with all of that in place, you can just write your own recipe and you're good. Our second tool we're taking a look at is Renovate. So while OpenRewrite is good for upgrading major versions one at a time, Renovate is good for upgrading smaller versions, and that's being done for all repositories that you want to have it configured. So it's a different use case. So imagine we are here again on Spring Boot 3.5, and we want an auto upgrade to the latest Spring Boot version. So every time there is a new Spring Boot version, there is an auto upgrade. What we need first is some Renovate JSON in our projects. You can either manually create or there is a so-called onboarding process. I manually created this and it just has two options. It lists the branches that Renovate will listen to. So in my case, there are two, usually it's just one. And it also says extends Renovate bot. And that's the major difference to Openrewrite. We are having a second Git repository now, and this Git repository here will list all the repositories it can crawl. So you will have all of your repositories here, and then you have an additional configuration. So there is some configuration here which basically says, please upgrade all dependencies and only do an auto update in minor patch. And if there is a major upgrade like Spring Boot 4.0, it will not auto upgrade that. It will just create a merge request for you and it will do nothing. So, but just to see it, let's try it out. One thing we can do here, we can call it on the command line, renovate, and renovate is installed via npm. So the website has you covered how to do that. So now we are running here, and it should then detect that there is a new Spring Boot version that needs upgrading. Yeah, we see that here. It says branch created, person service, branch developed. So it detected that there is a new version to be upgraded. And now if we go back here and if we update our project, we should see that now we have a branch renovate, develop all updates. And this, we take a look at our build it create file. See, now we are on 3.3.5.4. So yeah. And what will it do? So the next time we run renovate, so we can run that again, it will now on the second run merge that. So we'll just first create branch for you, and the second time after all the tests have been running, it will merge that. And that's basically what Renovate can do for you. And it's also a very cool and very powerful tool. So usually you will not do that on your command line. You will either use it in your build pipeline, like I'm using GitHub Actions here. So GitHub Actions even has a specific action to run that. And you can just say renovate.github action, and then it will execute that periodically for all of your repositories. Okay, that's already it for today's video. I hope you got a good impression how these two tools can help you to upgrade all of your microservices, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!